Woodworking is sponsored by
Microjig, maker of the gripper. Work safer, work smarter.
Why is a raven like a writing desk? Of course, this is one of the greatest unanswered riddles of all time, put forth by the Mad Hatter and, of course, Lewis Carroll. My personal favorite answer to that riddle is because there's a B in both and an N in neither. I can't wait to see how Yvonne translates that into the Spanish captions. But speaking of ravens, I made a writing desk. Mine is made out of maple and pine, and it's got 2 drawers for storing stuff. There's something so quaint and sophisticated about a writing desk. I'm gluing together these 1x4s to make the legs. And with those dry, I can cut those down into 1.5 inch wide legs. And I'm cutting all 4 legs to 29.5 inches long. The way I've made tapered cuts for legs in the past is to make up a jig like this one. These are pretty simple to make. It's just a plywood board with another plywood board mounted at an angle. So I would put my workpiece in like this against this cleat at the bottom and lock it into place. And then to make the cut, I would just run this along my fence. But I gotta tell you, having Microjig as a sponsor is pretty cool because they sent me one of their micro dial tapering jigs, which when I first saw it looked overly complicated and very intimidating. In reality, it's actually pretty simple to use and it's infinitely adjustable. And rather than having to draw that line out, I can set this rise over run scale. And just like my homemade jig, this has a little cleat down here that grabs and pushes the workpiece through your saw. To hold it in place, I just use these grippers. I can make the first 2 cuts with this setup. And to make the second cut, I'll just turn it on its side and readjust my grippers. For the next 2 sides, I need to double the angle to compensate for that cut. So that gives me tapered legs that are 1.5 inches square at the top, drops down 5 inches, and then the taper begins and goes all the way down to 3/4 inch square. I find that the shorter pieces are a lot easier and more accurate to cut on my crosscut sled. This is one of the rare times when I was able to pre-cut most of the pieces for this project. The only ones I haven't cut are the drawers and the drawer fronts, which I'll cut to size once it's assembled. For the plywood back and side panels, I'm going to drill pocket holes on all sides. I'm going to glue and screw these plywood panels to the centers of these rails. I'm just going to line it up visually into the center. I'll hold it in place with a clamp while I put the screws in. Now I can assemble the sides. Since my taper doesn't start until 5 inches down, I need to clamp this top part flat. I'll turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. I'll attach this back panel the same way. Snapping this front rail on will help keep it square while I put the screws in. The center divider is a little bit different. It goes together like this. It's got a little overhang on this side, and this block just lines up like that. And to line up this middle divider, I've cut 2 spacers that I can use to center it. This front rail goes on this little block and screws into the 2 sides. I'm driving a single screw into this center post. To use these side mount slides, I need to mount it to this plywood piece, which sets in a little bit from the legs. So I need to add a 1/2 inch spacer. I've made this 3/4 inch spacer that's gonna just sit on that ledge. This 1/2 inch spacer I've put glue on, and I'm gonna stick it on and tack it to the side. Now I can take this spacer out and use it on the next one. Now I'll set that spacer on this one and attach this spacer. This one's a little bit longer since there's no rear post. I'm using 1/2 inch plywood for the sides of the drawers. I'm cutting rabbet joints on the ends of the front and the back of each of the drawer pieces. And I'll cut a 1/4 inch rabbet along the bottom of all 8 of the drawer sides. I'm setting up these drawers so that I can cut the bottoms to fit. To install the drawer slides, I'm going to put these lower spacers in again. That 3/4 inch plywood leaves a little ledge that I can set the slide on and get it into position. And I'm using those holes that are kind of elongated so that I can move this if I need to adjust it. And now I can take that spacer out. Now to install the drawers, I'm going to shim them up a 1/4 inch using this 1/4 inch plywood. And I can drop this in like that. Now I can pull it out a little bit more and get the next hole. I'm adding some iron-on edge banding to the drawer fronts that I cut out of plywood. Since the drawers are a 1/4 inch higher than the frame, I've got an 1/8 inch sheet of plywood that I'm going to use to shim up the fronts. And once I get that centered about how I like it, I'll clamp it down. And I'll secure it with a couple of 1-inch screws. I've taken the drawers out because I want to attach the top, and I just realized a mistake I made. I cut these pocket holes so that I could screw the top on from underneath. Well, as you can see, these pocket holes on the sides are covered up by my drawer slides. When I was designing this, I thought I was going to be using bottom mount drawer slides. So now I'm just going to glue the top down. I'm making edge banding for the top using 3/4 by 3/4 inch strips. I'm going to use spray lacquer for the legs and the underside parts. That'll be a lot easier. And for the top, I'm going to use brushing lacquer. If you'd like to make your own writing desk, check down in the description for a free set of plans. If this is your first time here to Woodworking for Mere Mortals, welcome, and you should know that I post brand new videos every Friday on this channel, and I'd love to have you subscribe. And I'd like to invite all of you to check out and subscribe to my other channel, Mere Minutes, where I post 2 videos a week. And finally, if you have an answer to the eternal question, why is a raven like a writing desk? Leave it down in the comments. It'd be fun to read all of those. Thanks everybody, I'll see you next Friday.